Tonight on Bridge City News, the spread of COVID-19 continues around the world, with many sports organizations suspending their seasons, including the NHL and NBA. We have tips from the World Health Organization on the best way you can protect yourself and your family from COVID-19. And Alberta NDP leader Rachel Notley was in Lethbridge yesterday, attacking the Kenney government for cutting public sector positions, including nurses.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Robbins.
Good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus, is now a global pandemic. The announcement came down late yesterday from the World Health Organization. The latest numbers have more than 130,000 people around the world infected, with 4,755 deaths. So far, 68,677 people have recovered. Some big names are now in self-isolation, including Hollywood legend Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson. They've confirmed that they were both diagnosed with the coronavirus. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie are also self-isolating. Sophie Trudeau is awaiting test results to see if she too is infected with COVID-19. So far in Canada, there are 103 confirmed cases, including 14 right here in Alberta. NDP leader Rachel Notley was in Lethbridge yesterday, meeting with Lethbridge West MLA Shannon Phillips. Notley attacked the UCP government for laying off public sector workers, including nurses, especially at such a critical time now that COVID-19 is a global pandemic.
We cannot have the firing of nurses. In fact, we are here today to argue that we should be hiring more nurses immediately before the pandemic of coronavirus spreads significantly. And when it comes to contracting out lab services, the uncertainty posed by this change could not come at a worse time. We only have to look at the situation in the United States, where testing has been one of the biggest challenges to the containment of the virus, as proof of the risks that come with meddling in this area at this time.
The University of Lethbridge discussed their response as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic situation.
As a university and one of the largest institutions in southern Alberta, of course, we take this very seriously. We have been at work on this through a committee on campus that is very large and diverse to ensure that we're addressing all issues related to this challenge. And I would say also that it's important to understand that we're working very closely with key partners, of course, Alberta Health Services, our other university and college partners, both here in the city as well as around the province of Alberta.
The messaging that we're delivering to our campus is that of remaining calm, that we are preparing, and that we are communicating closely with our campus community, including taking a lot of our lead from the Alberta Health Services. So it's a collaborative effort to address all of the issues related to COVID-19.
Mackey says that they are monitoring the situation with their internal risk management teams and will take cues from public health officials as to what steps may be next to protect students and staff. Racist taunts have accompanied the spread of COVID-19 around the world. There have been countless cases of discrimination aimed at the Asian communities. BCN's Loris Alexander spoke to members of the Chinese community here in Lethbridge to find out how they have been affected.
A topic of global conversation causing mass hysteria and panic. Stores have been unable to keep up with toilet paper in stock, and Corona beer sales have declined. The frenzy that the coronavirus has caused has sparked xenophobia and racism. But here in Lethbridge, it's a different story.
For myself, I have not faced any racism in the city. I talked to my neighbor in my neighborhood and chat with my colleagues, and even went to many shops in town. I never had racism messages.
In Southern Alberta, no. I think people very understand about what's going on with the world. I don't think we being outstand out for this situation.
Both Chen and Lee say, if anything, there's been an outpouring of support from the community.
The people are understanding what's happening in China. Yeah, they understand that. They're supporting us.
They have lots of information and they understand how to protect themselves, and I think they're doing a good job.
Unfortunately, it seems that children might be a target in schools for unwarranted jokes and name-calling.
We have one 9-year-old girl. She at school A few other kids named her as China virus.
Chen hopes we can combat that with education.
But I also hoping more information and explanation about this virus can send to young school kids.
When we asked Lee if the coronavirus has had any impact on his restaurant, his response was,
It affects all the business, not just one business.
Lee's advice is simple, practical, and well, something we can all do.
Try to live a normal life and just try to do the right thing to protect yourself as well as everybody else around you.
For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
COVID-19 has hit Italy especially hard, with over 12,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus. The country has shut down bars, restaurants, and other non-essential stores to the public. A local man in Lethbridge says he's worried about his family in Italy and hopes that the situation there can be resolved quickly.
I'm scared to be from my brother, my sister, my parents, and everywhere. And these people, my friends here too, they are scary about this one. I hope that people take reason to use a mask, protection if they go out. My brother told I will use a mask, sometimes gloves, latex gloves for touch the stuff because you don't know who to touch or whatever.
To date, Italy has over 1,000 confirmed deaths from the coronavirus. Many events around the world have been suspended because of coronavirus fears. The First Ministers' meeting Friday in Ottawa was cancelled. The Junos were also cancelled. The NHL has temporarily suspended its season, as did the CHL, including the Western Hockey League. Major League Baseball canceled spring training and has delayed opening day by at least 2 weeks. The World Figure Skating Championships in Montreal were also cancelled. The ACAC, in association with Alberta Soccer Association, also postponed the 2020 ACAC Futsal Championships in Lloydminster this weekend. The Kodiak's men's and women's teams were supposed to take part in the weekend championships. The NBA, meanwhile, announced that it has suspended its season as one of its players, Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz, tested positive for the coronavirus. The Utah Jazz and Oklahoma City Thunder game was called off just before tip-off last night. The announcer told fans that the game was canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. Members of the Dallas Mavericks, including owner Mark Cuban, reacted to the league's decision to suspend all games for now.
This is new. No, but I think it's a great decision by the NBA. I think they know what they're doing. I think it's better to be careful. Do it now rather than do it later. So
this is people's lives at stake. This isn't about basketball. This isn't about the Mavericks. This isn't about, when do we start or do we start or how do we start? This is a pandemic, a global pandemic where people's lives are at stake. And, I'm a lot more worried about my kids and my mom who's 82 years old, and talking to her and telling her to stay in the house than I am about when we play our next game.
So what exactly is COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus? What are the symptoms to look out for? According to the World Health Organization, coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that cause illnesses ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases which impact the respiratory system. Seniors or those who have previous medical conditions are the most at risk, and there are ways you can protect yourself from contracting COVID-19. They are washing your hands frequently with either an alcohol-based hand sanitizer or soap and water. Both will kill the viruses on your hands. Maintain social distancing. Keep at least 1 meter or 3 feet between yourself and anyone who's coughing or sneezing. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Your hands can transfer the virus quite quickly and easily to other body parts. Benedetta Allegranzi with the World Health Organization says they are still learning more about COVID-19.
From what we know now, it can make some people a little sick with a slight runny nose. Other people get more sick and can have difficulty breathing and develop pneumonia. Some people get very sick and need to be hospitalized. Among those, unfortunately, some have died. While we still need to learn more about how the disease affects people, thus far, most of those that died had other underlying health issues. This information will change as we learn more about this disease. WHO will continue to provide updates as more information becomes available.
Alagranzi says if you feel unwell and have a fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, seek medical attention right away, but be sure to call in advance. Medical officials may also ask you to self-isolate for 14 days as to not spread the virus. The World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, but what does that mean exactly?
When COVID-19 first came to be, it was concentrated in Wuhan and then in Hubei province and then in China, so there was an outbreak in a concentrated area. But then COVID-19 began spreading rapidly all around the world. And now there are over 100 countries in which there is COVID-19, not only from travelers from China and other hotspots, but also that are spreading in the community, person to person, all around the world. At that point, it is a pandemic and not just an epidemic.
U.S. President Donald Trump announced a ban on flights from Europe into the United States, with the exception of the UK, as his country ramps up measures to tackle the spread of the new coronavirus. The ban will take place Friday at midnight and will last for 30 days.
These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings, and these prohibitions will not only apply to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo, but various other things as we get approval. Anything coming from Europe to the United States is what we are discussing. These restrictions will also not apply to the United Kingdom. At the same time, we are monitoring the situation in China and South Korea, and as their situation improves, we will reevaluate the restrictions and warnings that are currently in place for a possible early opening.
Our country's immigration minister says over the next 3 years there will be a slight increase in immigration to Canada. Marco Menencino says the extra number of people should help bolster our economy. His announcement came as borders around the world are closing due to the spread of COVID-19.
Today, I am here with my Parliamentary Secretary, Soraya Martinez, to announce that I have just tabled the 2020 to 2022 Immigration Levels Plan in the House of Commons. The proposed plan is based on the solid economic foundation of the previous Levels Plan, and in keeping with my mandate letter from the Prime Minister, continues to responsibly grow the number of permanent residents admitted to Canada each year from 341,000 in 2020 to 351,000 in 2021 and 361,000 in 2022.
Air Canada says it's suspending service to Lethbridge Airport indefinitely beginning at the end of the month. The City of Lethbridge released a statement earlier today and had this to say about Air Canada's actions. We are disappointed to learn that Air Canada is suspending service indefinitely in Lethbridge as of March 31st. Since we have taken over operation of the airport, we have placed great emphasis on our desire to increase the viability of the airport. We know that our airport has great opportunity for both growth for passengers and economic development opportunities. The airport remains one of the City Council's top priorities. The airline WestJet, meanwhile, says operations will remain as normal for now. Downtown businesses in Lethbridge say they are feeling the pinch of a so-called negative stigma in the area thanks to our city's opioid crisis. Erica Piska, who's the owner of Plum Restaurant in Lethbridge, spoke about her restaurant and its future plans and in ways she says will help the local community through the drug crisis.
This glorified mindset that there's going to be an end to this, that there was a beginning and an end, and that's not real. So it's a matter of instead saying, what is my role within this? And not necessarily looking for an end in sight, because it's not going to be an end in sight. I personally sponsor people's rehabilitation and recovery, and I do that on my own. And my entire team at Plum, or the entire team at Plum, has been fundamental and really, really happy and excited to share their stories and their love with everybody downtown.
Lethbridge City Councillor Blaine Higgins says he's happy to hear that the province will be investing millions of dollars into helping those in our city beat their drug addiction.
The announcements that have been coming out lately are making me so happy. It's the intox, the detox, the permanent supportive housing, and trying to distribute the funds to help these individuals that are suffering with addiction in the best way they possibly can. We all want them to get back into society. Again, we're compassionate. I say that word so many times, but we want them to be part of society. We want them to be able to become better and free from those addictions and live a sober life.
Catch the full interview with Councillor Blaine Higgins discussing concerns he still has about the supervised consumption site in Lethbridge. That's coming up after business news. The internet is a scary place, especially when it comes to predators targeting our children. Charlene Doka-Bauer is the founder of Internet Sense First and author of The Internet, Are Children in Charge? She says parents really need to keep tabs on their kids and monitor what they're doing with their cell phones.
They're taking pictures of themselves nude, sending them, and even though it's their body, they're producing and distributing child pornography, which then the parents own, because essentially the parents own the cell phone. And when I talk to parents about that, they say, "You mean we're responsible?" Yes, you are, for a minor's activities, but they cannot own a cell phone until they're 18. So therefore, it is your plan, your phone.
Charlene Doka-Bauer will have more on how you can protect your family from the dangers of the online world. That's coming up in the second half of our show. Environment Canada issued a winter storm watch for our region earlier today. We've had lots of snow and cooler temperatures across southwestern Alberta. Unfortunately, that trend will continue into the weekend. Full weather details are on deck. Cool and snowy today. Tonight, more snow developing with a low near -11. Tomorrow, heavy snow at times with a high of only -10 degrees. Snow and -18 for Saturday. Fortunately, the flurry should end on Sunday, and we should see a high of -16. Monday, a high-pressure system returns, bringing more sunshine and warming up considerably to -2. Tuesday, we should see a high of 8 degrees. Sunny and 5 degrees for Wednesday. Looking at the almanac, the average high for this time of year is 5 degrees and an average low of -7. The highest temperature on this date was recorded in 2007 at 18 degrees, and the record low, -26 in 1950. Sunrise was at 7:51, sunset at 7:31. Looking at tomorrow's national forecast now, Victoria should receive lots of rain and a high of 7. Rain and 8 degrees is on tap for Vancouver. Calgary had a snowfall warning today. Tomorrow, more of the white stuff and a high of only -12. Edmonton will also receive snow and a high of -15. Expect sunshine mixed with cloud in Regina and a high of -8. Mostly cloudy and -14 for Saskatoon on Friday. Overcast and -10 for Winnipeg. In the central part of the country, rain and 7 is expected in Toronto tomorrow. Rain as well and a high of 9 for Ottawa. Rain and 6 degrees for Montreal on Friday. In Atlantic Canada, expect rain mixed with snow and a high of 4 degrees for Fredericton, New Brunswick. Showers and 4 for Halifax, Nova Scotia. A good chance of flurries, a +1 for Charlottetown, PEI. And in St. John's, Newfoundland, expect a partly cloudy day and a high of -2 for tomorrow. Princess Cruises is suspending global operations through early May because of the coronavirus pandemic. It says 18 cruise ships will cease voyages that were scheduled to depart between today and May 10th. The cruise line, which is part of Carnival Corporation, had one of its ships quarantined off the coast of Japan last month. Japanese authorities quarantined the Diamond Princess ship for 2 weeks after 10 passengers were initially diagnosed with the virus. Some Starbucks locations in Canada and the United States may become only drive-through, while others could limit the number of people allowed inside. The company made the announcement earlier today following the World Health Organization declaring the outbreak of the coronavirus a pandemic. CEO Kevin Johnson says stores will be closed as a last resort, and those decisions will be made on a case-by-case basis. Starbucks already increased the pace of sanitizing its locations and put into place a temporary ban on use of personal cups or in-store mugs and glassware. European markets are down 10% even after the European Central Bank announced more stimulus measures to cushion the economic pain inflicted by the coronavirus pandemic. The central bank bought 120 billion euros more on bonds. It is also providing cheap loans to banks to make sure they have the liquidity needed. It is all aimed at helping businesses get back on their feet due to the virus outbreak. The central bank says the 19 countries that use the euro are likely to face a recession later this year. The federal government says it will spend $2.3 million on research into potato early dying disease. The horticulture sector is kicking additional cash for a total of $3.3 million. The disease causes premature aging, limiting potato yield by as much as 50%. As part of the project, the Canadian Horticulture Council will survey fields to determine disease levels and evaluate its control through grower cropping systems. The government says the horticulture sector is a key contributor to Canada's economy, representing more than $5 billion in sales and $2.6 billion in exports. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX erased 4 years of gains as the index faced one of its worst days ever. The TSX was down 1,761 points today to 12,508. The Dow was down 2,352 to 21,200. The S&P 500 was down 260 points to 2480. The Nasdaq was also down on the day, 750 points to 7201. Oil was down $1.99 to $30.99 a barrel. Natural gas was down 6 cents to $1.82. Gold rebounded and was up $4.21 today to $15.8036 an ounce, and silver was up a cent to $15.83 an ounce. Wheat is at $237 per metric ton, barley's at $232, canola is at $4.64, and corn is at $259 per metric ton. Live cattle were down $3 to $100.08. Feeder cattle were down $4.50 to $120.88. Lean hogs were down $3 to $62.50, and the Canadian dollar was down slightly on the day at 71.77 US. We have some breaking news for you this hour. In light of the coronavirus, the Alberta government is asking all large gatherings or international events of more than 250 people in the province to be cancelled. Now, it does not include places of worship, grocery stores, airports, or shopping centres. The government is also advising Albertans against travelling outside of the country. 4 new cases of COVID-19 have now been confirmed in Alberta, bringing the total number in the province to 23. All were travel-related. One patient continues to recover in hospital, while all others are in isolation at home. Many cities in Canada are not only dealing with the coronavirus, but also the impact of the opioid crisis. Coming up, a conversation with Lethbridge City Councillor Blaine Higgin, who talks about the drug crisis and its impact in our community. That interview is on deck. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. The Monarch Community Association is holding their 3rd annual chili cook-off and silent auction on Saturday, March 21st at the Monarch Community Hall. Cook up your favorite chili recipe and bring it for others to taste and vote on whose chili is the best. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. with dinner beginning at 6 and silent auction ending at 8. Admission is a minimum donation of $5. For details, call Russ at 403-360-7944. Southern Alberta Men's Ministry is hosting Shine Be the Light Men's Conference on March 20th and 21st at University Drive Alliance Church. emceeing the conference is our very own BCN's Hal Roberts, with special guest speaker Pastor Lynette Anderson from Halifax, Nova Scotia. Tickets are $20 and $10 for college students. Purchase yours by visiting eventbrite.ca. For more information, call 403-327-4422. The 8th Annual Color Fun Run, presented by Volunteer Lethbridge in partnership with the University of Lethbridge, is taking place Sunday, April 5th at the university's campus. This family-friendly 5-kilometer walk or run is for charity, with proceeds going to support Volunteer Lethbridge's community building programs and services. For tickets, visit volunteerlethbridge.com, and to volunteer, call Chelsea at 403-332-4320. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
It seems that our society's become such a busy place that we don't always find the time to connect with each other like we really should. Perhaps our communities have also become more dangerous than in the past, which may cause us to become a little less neighborly. Joining me now to talk about this at the desk is Blaine Higgin, a Lethbridge City Councillor. Blaine is also involved with a local group called Connecting Our Community Lethbridge. Welcome to BCN, Blaine.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm quite excited to be here.
Oh, you're more than welcome to join us here. Now, Blaine, first of all, Connecting Our Community Lethbridge, what is it all about and how did it begin?
Connecting Our Community is just about bringing the community together. And it started, first of all, because of a concerned individual was sexually assaulted on the north side of Lethbridge. And some of the crime around that and just what took place was really left the citizens in that area with some concerns. So a group got together and decided they needed to make a stance and try to help what was going on and to bring the community together.
Now, I understand you meet every 2 weeks or so. What sorts of things are discussed during these meetings?
There's multiple things. We've had a great opportunity to connect with different individuals in the community. We've had the police out to talk about different ways to combat these crimes and not as being vigilant, but being able to make sure you call into the police. Call in on a regular basis. They're doing such a wonderful job. They want to know what's going on. They get a little frustrated, I guess, with the continual Facebook posts, etc. They don't monitor that all the time, so it's important to make sure that you call into them, and they've been doing a wonderful job. We're always welcome to different speakers to come on board. It's been great.
Now, your group has also had various struggles and issues it's had to deal with. Let's talk a bit about those.
Oh, there's a lot of struggles for sure over the time, and you've probably noticed lately the page has been a little quiet, and it's concerning to a lot of people that were quite active, and the reason it's gone a little quiet is because it's been a lot of bullying and threats on that page, which is really frustrating. If they know the background why that group is where it is, it's really frustrating to have those people out there trying to create havoc, I guess, and it's just not right. We're there for the right reason. I find that to be extremely important.
Lethbridge has also had a real issue with the drug crisis, like a lot of cities across Alberta, especially in our park system. Some of the kids were accidentally pricked by some of the dirty needles, and that was a real issue. Was that brought up as well? And maybe the sense of anxiety and concern that it's been caused in our community here?
Absolutely. There's been numerous individuals pricked by needles, and one is too many. And that's another reason why this community group got together. And we've actually had a mother of one of the children that was pricked came and presented. And it's really unfortunate. There's the crime that is associated around that, and the concerns that those members are feeling throughout the community. Finding the uncapped needles, finding the needle debris, finding the needles themselves, preloaded needles that have been found.
And the kids are looking at the needles like, oh, this is something unique, a cool little toy. Pop it in the backpack, bring it home, and mom and dad are like, what is this? Right?
That's exactly what happened, Hal. And that's really sad that could happen in our community.
Now, was this brought before City Council as well, and what happened?
It was brought before City Council, and we received emails of concern prior, and what had happened is I'd looked into this. I'd contacted the mother of one that had their child was pricked, and asked for the story, and I brought a resolution forward to council shortly after to not have the needles leave our consumption site in Lethbridge. That was what I thought would be a start to stop the debris from circulating throughout the community, in the parks, and the places that we go and share these wonderful times with our children and with our pets.
Right?
In the playgrounds, that's right.
Now, for the most part, I think a lot of people who use the drugs, a lot of the addicts are shooting up at the supervised consumption site, but Blaine, sometimes they're not.
That's right. There's a lot.
There's still debris in our city, isn't there?
There's a lot of times they're not, Hal, and the reason being is there's needles that are handed out continually from the supervised consumption site. So of course, if you're going there to use the drug of choice at the supervised consumption site, I believe that you should go there, and that's where it should be used. You shouldn't be able to pick up supplies to be able to leave and use that substance on the streets, because if you're at the supervised consumption site, the opportunity to have a professional nurse, medical staff help you if there's an overdose is far greater than if you're somewhere else in the community where you don't have that assistance.
Now, many in our community argue that the folks at Arches and the supervised consumption site portion of Arches are doing a really good job. They're doing well, they're instituting a lot of programs, they're offering the counseling and the services to help those who want to get off drugs, get off those drugs, the opioids, right?
Right.
But then the other people in our community, they want to see it shut down or moved out entirely, which the UCP is considering right now. What are your thoughts, and how are you leaning when it comes to the SCS?
Well, you know what, it's important to have harm reduction. And I know I've caught a few times where they said, Blaine, you support that site because you support harm reduction. That's not true. The current way that facility is being operated, I do not support at all. And it's the way that it is operated, I don't believe it to be the right way to be operated. And so for that reason is why I don't support that site. I do support harm reduction is one of the pillars for the continuum of care for these individuals that are suffering with addiction.
When you say you don't support the site the way it's being operated right now, do you feel they're being more enablers?
Absolutely, and I've stated that numerous times, and it's been, I've taken a lot of heat and threats because of it, and it's like I call it like a hamster wheel, to be honest with you. They'll come into the facility, they'll use their drug of choice, they'll leave, go on the street, get their to-go bag, if you will, go on the street. They could use there when they're down. They come back in, they reuse again. They'll leave, they don't have the money to buy the drugs, they'll commit a crime, they'll buy the drugs, they'll come back in, and it's a continual circle of crime and drug abuse. And for that reason, I just don't believe that these individuals are being helped the way that they should.
I was interviewing some folks around the Chinook Regional Hospital, some homeowners there, and they were saying many times from what they've seen, drug users with OD at the supervised consumption site be brought to the Chinook Regional Hospital to recover after receiving naloxone, be released from the Chinook Regional Hospital, and then break into the cars and the houses in the neighborhood. Absolutely. You know, and a lot of those homeowners are quite frustrated right now. So what do you want to say to those homeowners?
Oh, you know, what can you say to these homeowners sometimes? It's frustrating. And I just, if I could speak a little bit to the fact of how many times these individuals are revived because of the overdoses. And don't get me wrong, Hal, it's important. We need to be compassionate, but we need to understand the importance of using our medical facilities the way that we're supposed to. A prime example, I received a call from an individual whose husband was having a heart attack. Contacted the EMS services, and they were out of ambulances. And now, it's not for me to say that it was because of that exact reason, but we're in quite a situation here now with response to addicts throughout our community. If that was the reason, that's really hard to take. This individual was actually driven down by a family member to receive medical attention, yet is a taxpayer in our community, has done so much to support our community, but because and again, I'm not pointing at that is the only reason, but if we know how many responses come in because of those in medical distress because of drug overdose.
Do you think that the EMS is maybe spread a little too thin, perhaps, in our city?
You know, I think it's for the population, it's probably okay. And again, those stats there, I wouldn't be the right one to speak to that, but I think it's how often we're using our EMS staff for those drug-addicted individuals, and the services are spent continually on helping those, which again is very important, but is 3, 4, 5 times a day. And you know, I wish we had more ambulances, but I wish we had less those addicted to the drugs, and more for you know, the ambulance for those in the community.
We've had Lethbridge Mayor Chris Spearman on our show a number of times talking about the 4 pillars. You know, it's not just the supervised consumption site, but it's the intox, the detox, the counseling, all of that's needed really to help those who want to get off of drugs, right? And the UCP they're going to be investing millions upon millions of dollars for more treatment beds. How much of an impact do you think that'll have here in our community?
You know, I think it's going to have a great impact. We've advocated for this as council for years, many years, and unfortunately, the previous government that didn't come through. And so for 5 years we've been advocating. Now the announcements that have been coming out lately are making me so happy. It's the intox, the detox, the permanent supportive housing, and trying to distribute the funds to help these individuals that are suffering with addiction in the best way they possibly can. We all want them to get back into society. Again, we're compassionate. I say that word so many times, but we want them to be part of society. We want them to be able to become better and free from those addictions and live a sober life.
But what about those addicts that say, you know what, I don't have a problem, I'm good. I'm having a great time, I'm enjoying this. What do you say to them?
Well, addicts will probably have that attitude because most of the time I have been told that they're not speaking of a sound mind if they're addicted. And we need to help them to understand what is beyond a life of addiction. And I think with these extra services that we're seeing, and they're continually coming forward, and I believe there will be more coming forward to help those that are struggling.
Not long ago, there was a truck that went by, a couple of guys by the supervised consumption site, opened up fire with paintballs, shot some of the staff and the clients at the supervised consumption site, an act of vigilantism. You don't want to see a lot of that in our city. So what do you say to people who are that frustrated that they're pulling out their paintball guns and shooting people?
And cannot condone any activity like that, obviously. That is something we don't want to see throughout our community. I think it gets to a level of frustration, and people are so frustrated that a city has changed so quickly in such a short time. I used to never lock my door to my home. Now that was a little bit, you know, maybe
20, 25 years ago, maybe?
Yeah.
30 years ago?
Not even that long ago. We're talking 5, 7, 8 years ago.
Well, I've been locking my doors for 20, 30 years.
But you know
I grew up in the big city in Calgary, right?
Yeah, see, and I come from a pretty small town, and so in order to do that, I never did. And now I'll get into bed and I'll go back downstairs to make sure, double check that the door is locked, as we had an instance with a very large machete, a fella carrying a large machete just a few doors down from me that broke into numerous homes. And so there's things like that that are very concerning and alarming for our community.
The Watch program, working with the police, how impactful do you think that's been and how helpful in our community here? The volunteers going around, making sure people get the help that they need and that we feel a little more safe and secure right here in Lethbridge.
Yeah, you know, I like the Watch. I do have a few concerns with the Watch. They can only do so much. They're to, I think, shuffle people around and make sure people are feeling safe, take them to their vehicles and stuff, which again brings back, we're not a safe community if we have to have that. But since we are less safe now than we used to be, having the Watch is offering that a little extra security to those individuals that are needing it. But again, a lot of time it's shuffling those again suffering from addiction from one place to another, and there's only so much authority that they have as the Watch is more or less to shuffle, and so you know it's somewhat concerning. But I do respect the drive and determination they have to try to make a community safer.
Speaking of community and a sense of community, Blaine, what do you think about getting to know your neighbors a little bit more? I talk to some people in different communities in Lethbridge. You know, I've lived here 10 years, I've never met my neighbor. You've never met your neighbor, never talked to my neighbor? Just kind of wave and that's it. You know, when I was a kid growing up, you get to know your neighbors, you'd have community barbecues, there was a stronger sense of community. Why do you think that's lacking these days? Are we just too busy?
You know, I think that's part of it. I think we all live pretty busy lifestyles, but I think at times, and now it's the old cliche, you need to stop and smell the roses. There's time we need to stop. We need to visit with our neighbors. We need to have the community meetings. Get out, understand what the struggles that your neighbor have. And I've come from a background of my mom and dad always taught me about service and how important service is to serve others in the community. The more we serve others, it comes back tenfold, and you're not even expecting it, but being able to share what others may not have, and we don't know what some other people are going through, and so to be able to serve them, if it's take them some cookies, take them a meal sometime, just get to know your neighbors, because I think it's really important. You're right, it's not the way that it used to be.
And it's interesting, that's to a large degree what the volunteers of the Watch program are doing, serving our community, right? Because they're volunteering their time. Yeah. Now, the Connecting Our Community group also does some acts of kindness. You've helped out the Ortega family, and in particular, a young girl who's been battling cancer. Tell me a bit about that.
You know, we heard of this group that or this family, the Ortega family, who nobody ever wants to go through it themselves, let alone a child of theirs to go through. And it was a very big struggle, and so they had connected with Connecting Our Community, and it didn't take us very long to start pounding the pavement to try to help this family. It was amazing how quickly we were able to gather individuals together to help. Some of the things that were done is we were able to get together and create meals for this family. A few months of meals for the family, cards for, if it was gas cards, food cards, Safeway cards, whatever it was, to be able to help this family as well. Fix their vehicle. They had some concern with vehicle, and they're back and forth to Calgary on a regular basis for these treatments. But in the end, we also got 5 months of their mortgage paid by those throughout our community that helped with that initiative. So it's really heartwarming, again, the acts of service and what comes out from something like that.
Lethbridge City Councillor and part of Connecting Our Community Lethbridge, Blaine Higgin, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Children today are constantly using digital devices, gaming systems, computers, and cell phones. Unfortunately, this does bring with it the risk of encountering online predators. How much responsibility for their safety should we be carrying as parents and adults? To talk more about it is Charlene Dokebauer, founder of Internet Sense First and author of The Internet, Are Children in Charge? Charlene, welcome back to BCN.
Well, thank you for having me, Hal. It's great to be here.
Charlene, share a little bit about your group and how it all began for you.
The charity Internet Sense first started because we had a family member affected by the crime of child pornography at the age of 4 by neighbors. And yes, I say neighbors. We can't trust anyone anymore, it seems. And eventually she lived her life independently, got into drugs and alcohol, and then was killed by a drunk driver when she was 22. And as a network administrator, I discovered child pornography. I don't talk about the employer because I did a lot of freelancing as well. And you don't know that garbage until you see it. And once that happened, I decided to start a charity in memory of my family member and in support of all children online.
And you do some public speaking and teaching on this, and you have some teaching materials for parents as well?
Mainly my book is probably the best resource for parents because it's very comprehensive. I do speaking. I've spoken in Iceland, Europe, India, the United States, Canada, and I go where I'm asked. And I believe that everyone needs to know about my theory of digital supervision.
Charlene, how many parents actually monitor their kids' online activities? Do we actually know what they're watching, or are we dropping the ball sometimes?
Most parents are dropping the ball all the time, I have to say, because the vulnerabilities of our children are huge now. They can be on any platform, and predators know exactly where they are. That's where they go, where their prey is. And the other big problem is that children are becoming the victimizers because of what they're seeing online. There's an epidemic of child on child sexual assault that I can get into in a few minutes and in a little more detail.
But getting back to the predators for just a moment here, Charlene, are a lot of, let's say, adults posing as maybe 13 or 14-year-old boys or girls online?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. 9, 10-year-old children, they can even get machines that will disguise their voice as a young child, which makes it so difficult for our children.
I hear many parents say simply, you know what, I can't keep up. My kids know a lot more about technology than I do. So if that's the case, what do you say to those parents? How do you encourage them?
Well, I encourage them to realize that I'm not pointing my finger at parents that they're not doing a good job. I'm saying that traditional parenting is still necessary, but we need to digitize our parenting. We're very busy taking our children to school, hockey games, basketball, dance classes, and then we give them the key to our router. And these children are the most independent of any generation in the history of the world. And we have to start supervising them while they're on digital devices. And my theory of digital supervision, I've written to be very user friendly so that parents are not intimidated. We just had a summit in London, and it's called the International Summit to End Internet Child Exploitation. It was very well attended. We had people from Africa, Spain, Colombia, all over the place. One father bought my book, and he said, I can't tell you the relief I have in practicing digital supervision. I actually have a handle on what my children are doing. And I also want 6 more books. And I said, why? You want to read it 7 times? And he said, no, I want it for the parents of my children's friends so that they will be practicing digital supervision as well.
You know, Charlene, parents can't be everywhere all the time, and it's hard to keep track of what our kids are watching. Perhaps parents need to be a little more intentional. Do we need to really map out a plan, that digital plan that you were discussing?
Absolutely. One thing I mentioned in my book is that parents should draw up a contract of use with their children. And I say with them. You sit at the table together with them and say, this is the cell phone. We're docking it at 7 o'clock at night. You can pick it up at 7 o'clock in the morning. We will be going through your cell phone, looking at pictures, because the epidemic of nudes for these children is huge. They're taking pictures of themselves nude, sending them, and even though it's their body, they're producing and distributing child pornography, which then the parents own, because essentially the parents own the cell phone. And when I talk to parents about that, they say, you mean we're responsible? Yes, you are, for a minor's activities, but they cannot own a cell phone until they're 18. So therefore, it is your plan, your phone, your iPad.
Is that considered sexting then, when a lot of these kids are taking pictures of their private parts or nude photos and sending them to each other? Is that what they call
That's
sexting?
sexting. Yes, it is, Hal. And it's epidemic. I've talked to so many principals. Every time I speak in a school, a principal will whisper and say, we've had a child charged for this. And I say, no need to worry about it. It's in every school. It's in Canada, the United States, England, New Zealand. It's everywhere. And if people would start practicing digital supervision, which is user-friendly, they would know what their children are doing.
How about if we took that router and kept it in the parents' bedroom and maybe continually change the password each day?
I advise everyone to put the router in the parental bedroom for two reasons. Number one, you can turn it off at night. Someone complained about what about the electronics in the bedroom, and I say it's not going to bother you if it's turned off. And the other reason, you can turn it off, your kids can't turn it on if it's in your bedroom. But the second reason is you're telling your children you're in charge. The location of the router in a common area is not a good idea. If we're paying for it, our children need to know.
I have some parents that tell me, you know what, when you're finished your homework, then I'm going to give you access to the new password for Wi-Fi. And a lot of times the kids do their homework is that they keep changing and updating it each and every day. Now, Charlene, should we also invest in some software to block pornography sites in our homes?
There are two ways of looking at that. You can get software to block pornography, and that will wear off when the child's about 8 or 9. They can work around software very easily. As part of digital supervision, I tell parents to make sure they have a filter between their router and the computer, the host computer. And the router can divide the internet. There's one company that calls it a bright web, so that the child will go up into the bright web and be able to go on the internet without going on sites like that. The unfortunate thing is that does not work when the child is on a cell phone or they're gaming. Gaming can cause a few more issues so that the child cannot be as easily monitored. So parents need to be aware of that and realize that humanity has to supervise humanity. We need to be around the devices. We need to review browser history. And when children realize their parents are reviewing the browser history, as a former educator, I know they'll erase it and put up the science project and the research on history. We need to start looking at the actual history, looking at what they're doing. If a child turns off a monitor as soon as you go into a room, you go in and turn it back on. You don't let them off with that. Who is in charge? Right now, our children are in charge of the internet too often. We need to take charge and take our children back and be able to talk to them and supervise them.
I love that, absolutely. Now, what do we need to teach our kids specifically when it comes to online safety? Avoid chat rooms, for one?
Avoid chatting, avoid sending anything like a picture without the geolocator being turned off, things like that. And what I tell everyone now is that our children, in many ways, are being given too much ownership for decisions online. For example, a child knowing at the age of 8 whom they should speak with online is asking an awful lot of an 8-year-old. I don't know of an 8-year-old that plans dinner, let alone who they're going to talk to online. It's a tough call, and parents need to be talking to their children a lot about that. They need to be online games to see how their children are communicating online. Is your child a bully or a victim or a victimizer? Are they bullying a child into sending a nude, which is happening too much? Do you know if your child is going to commit suicide? They communicate all this online. If you're not online supporting your children and supervising, we are lacking in our parenting skills. We need to digitize.
You know what's really scary as well at the same time, Charlene, is how much information kids share with strangers as opposed to their own parents who love and care for them. Do parents need to set a firm limit on how much time kids spend on their digital devices? You mentioned something about 7 o'clock, give me your phone until maybe 7 o'clock the next morning, and as well, maybe social media sites?
Yes, now that can be difficult because even when I'm at a business meeting, I'll ask everyone to put their phones away because it's intimidating when someone's looking at a phone and you're a speaker. Try telling a child you're taking away their cell phone, which is why a contract before they even get a cell phone is so important. They're on digital devices too much. Yes, there should be limitations. And it's kind of funny, Hal, at this point that people will tell them you're only going to watch TV tonight. You can't go on the iPad. And I just sort of, that's punishment, is going on television rather than being online. There's just so much in my book about this, taking away a cell phone, what you need to look out for, what you need to look out for with a child that might be groomed by a predator. There's so much in digital supervision, but you know what, Hal? We can all do it, and we have to do it.
Charlene, is it too harsh saying kids should not have cell phones until maybe the age of 14 or 15, or waiting to have an Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, or Facebook account until they're about the same age?
It's not out of the question, but I think my words would be good luck because so many children have them. It's again, if parents are giving the cell phones, tell your children you're going to be checking everything on that cell phone. And I mean everything. You press on every icon. They will create an icon for their nudes that looks as though it's a calculator or just a beach somewhere. Do children lie? Of course they do. I've been a teacher at parent-teacher night, and parents will say, my children never lie to me, and I would look at them and say, well, I lied to my parents. In fact, my poor sainted mother, I probably still tell the odd lie. We do. We want approval from our parents. We want to get off with things that maybe we shouldn't be doing. And this is where digital supervision comes in. Don't let them lie to you about the internet. Supervise. And you mentioned TikTok. TikTok is a very scary environment because kids are doing live streaming of nudes, of dancing and things like that. And I hesitate to mention one environment because this can happen anywhere. We have Facebook, we have FaceTime, we have live streaming everywhere. And predators love to get the live streaming. They are recording it as a child is doing it, but the child thinks it's being erased. And then the predator will sell it. And then when the child might find out who's looking at my pictures today, it's just a never-ending story.
Yeah, it's a dark world we're living in right now. Now, part of the challenge is that your kids will have access to their computers and their phones during school hours, and you're at work. How do you manage that?
Well, for one thing, I advise everyone on a cell phone especially to put a keylogger on. And a keylogger will record every key that a child presses on the cell phone, as well a comprehensive one will record all the pictures. And a parent can put that on before the child even gets the phone, and every night they can have a report sent to them so that they will know exactly what the child is involved in. You can put a type of filter on cell phones. Again, the kids can get around them. They talk about this in school all the time. We get around all that. But the keylogger is a pretty good source. Looking at it is another one. I had one parent actually take her router to work every day.
Wow.
Which, because she had an extreme problem with her child.
Wow.
And it's difficult.
But you know, if the child has a data plan, who needs the router? How many parents actually take the time to sit down with their kids and have a really good heart-to-heart talk about internet safety and the potential consequences?
Very few. I've talked to people just casually about digital supervision. And one fellow said, well, I talked to my 14-year-old son last night and he told me he didn't do anything and I'm good with that. And I'm like, really? Your child is lying. There's no question. The kids are all involved in this stuff. And I looked at him, I thought, no, I don't think I need to go any further. He was just blocking it. He should be looking at the devices every day at random. Take a look. See what your kids are doing. See what pictures are on their galleries. I've interviewed kids in high school that said there are thousands of these nudes on on galleries. Are parents looking? They couldn't be because the parents can be charged for possession of child pornography. And we had an incident in London, Ontario. A 9-year-old was sending videos over TikTok to a 35-year-old. And the FBI tipped off the police. And this is a scenario most parents would not want to have. The police came knocking at their door at 6:45, opened the door, confiscated all computer equipment, the parents and the child's, because the parents are suspect. Are they allowing this? Because there are some parents allowing this and selling these videos for their income. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Do you want to have that conversation with the police? And that's not just parents, Grandparents, are kids visiting you with your wide open networks? Are you looking at what they're doing while they're in your home? A child visiting another kid, what are they doing?
Yeah, that's incredible. Charlene Doka-Bauer, founder of Internet Sense First, thanks a lot for joining me today from Ontario.
Thank you, Hal. Thank you so much.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.